Our top story tonight, Thursday night football. What an adventure that was. The Jaguars squeak out the win. They almost choke it away. But let's be honest, this game was not as close as the final score. This game shouldn't have been tied at any point other than when it was 0-0. And that's because the Saints are an absolute disaster. The New Orleans Saints are on the brink of something catastrophic. The rebuild that they're about to undergo is going to be years and years of suffering. And this is what you get for kicking that salary cap down the road again and again and again. So we'll get to that. We'll get to more. All the injury news around the NFL, who's playing this weekend, who's not, on Player Profiler Today. And so we will start things off with the New Orleans Saints losing to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Despite winning, they won the turnover battle. They won the time of possession battle by 12 minutes. They ran 30 more plays than the Jaguars did, including 22 plays in the red zone, which is more than the Steelers have run all year. The Steelers, 21 plays in the red zone, 22 for the Saints just last night. The Saints also had 70 more yards and fewer penalties and penalty yardage. So that can count as 5 or 6. The Saints won pretty much everywhere. You have to win in the NFL, and they still lose. And it's for a variety of reasons. Part of it, a large part of it, is Derek Carr. 33 of 55 for 301 yards. I mean, 301 yards, that sounds impressive, but 5.5 yards per attempt, an interception, and a touchdown. They have to go to Taysom Hill in the red zone when they're on fourth down, because they just can't trust Derek Carr. He has failed them time after time after time. They go to Taysom Hill to get the TD. And granted, it's not all Derek Carr's fault. The offensive line did him no favors, an offensive line that was missing both of their tackles, as well as, well, their left guard kicked out to left tackle, and he was terrible there, so they had a different left guard. So basically, 2 starters on the offensive line, 2 regular starters on the O-line. Other 3 were new. And they were bad. They had Carr under pressure early and often. And Derek Carr is also playing hurt. He's got the shoulder injury, the collarbone injury, whatever you want to call it. But I'm not giving Derek Carr a pass on that. I'm not giving Derek Carr a pass for playing poorly through a sprained AC joint. Derek Carr is being selfish by playing right now. He is worried about losing his job. That is why Derek Carr is on the field, even though Jameis Winston would give this team a better chance at victory, at winning football games, because they have to take the ball out of Derek Carr's hands when it matters most. And then, granted, Derek Carr does give them a chance to tie it at the end of the game. Throws a touchdown pass. Oh, Foster Moreau. My heart goes out to Foster Moreau. But that was a terrible, terrible, terrible drop. But Derek Carr, bad game. People will defend him. Oh, well, he had him in position for the comeback. Oh, well, he had that touchdown pass to Michael Thomas, which was a beautiful touchdown pass. But Derek Carr is hurting the Saints right now. And the Saints can't get rid of Derek Carr this year, next year, maybe not even the year after, because the Saints have absolutely no money. So I hope you enjoy 42 yards and a touchdown for Michael Thomas. I hope you enjoy 13 targets to Chris Olave. I do enjoy that. 7 receptions for 57 yards. And Derek Carr loses his mind when Chris Olave gives up on a route for a ball that sailed out of bounds. There was a 0% chance of Chris Olave catching it unless he could go Stretch Armstrong and stretch his arms out another 5 yards to catch the out-of-bound pass from a terrible ball by Derek Carr. And I hope you enjoy seeing Taysom Hill with 5 targets, 40 yards, 50 yards receiving. Taysom Hill was 3rd on the team in receiving behind Chris Olave and Alvin Kamara, ahead of Michael Thomas, ahead of Rashid Shaheed. And that is just another problem with the current New Orleans Saints. And another problem is Alvin Kamara is being wasted. Alvin Kamara still has it. He is still electric. He still has the juice. Alvin Kamara, 14 targets, catches 12 of them for 91 yards on the ground. He's not doing anything special. 62 yards on 17 carries, 3.6 yards per carry. But when actually given a little bit of room to work with, Alvin Kamara looks pretty good. The problem, again, is this terrible, horrible offensive line for the New Orleans Saints. But 157 yards from scrimmage, 12 receptions. Pretty good day from Alvin Kamara. And hopefully he'll be freed next year. And Kendre Miller can take the backfield. Kendre Miller sees no touches in this one. Jamal Williams returns, 5 carries for 14 yards. And I just don't understand why they signed Jamal Williams if they're going to use him like this. Because they get to the goal line and they're handing it off to Alvin Kamara up the middle, which is what you signed Jamal Williams to do from the Detroit Lions. He's supposed to be your Mark Ingram. And then finally, okay, Alvin Kamara's not working. These carries aren't working. Let's run the Taysom Hill play. So just a waste of a contract for the New Orleans Saints to go out and get Jamal Williams, to not use him in the one thing he's good at, which is short yardage and goal line situations. Instead, they take 4 plays. I think they ended up being more than 4 plays because of a penalty maybe, but takes 4+ plays for a Taysom Hill touchdown instead of just giving it to Jamal Williams like the Lions did game after game last year. And the biggest problem, the biggest issue for the New Orleans Saints now, they're 3-4. They're going nowhere. Probably not going to make the playoffs. They're, the third best team in the NFC South, one of the worst divisions in football. And they've got no money. $85 million below or above the salary cap, however you want to phrase it. They have negative $85 million in the bank for next year. That's insane. The next closest team has negative $47 million. That's the Los Angeles Chargers. And so how do they get out of this hole? Basically by blowing up the entire team, because pre-June 1st, they can only save $14 million with cuts pre-June 1st. You can save $4.9 million from Demario Davis, but that incurs a $13.2 million cap hit. So you're probably not doing that. So then with the rest of the cuts that you can actually make, 2.7 for James Hurst, your left tackle / backup offensive lineman, but now he's a starter again because Trevor Penning's so bad, even though you were only a left tackle away. Cut Peyton Turner, who's on a rookie deal still, saved $2.4 million, 1.4 with Pete Warner, 1.3 with Paulson Adebo, but you're just cutting rookies who are worth the money you're paying for them. Maybe not Peyton Turner, but Pete Warner for 1.4, Paulson Adebo for 1.3. Those are steals. So the Saints are screwed. Pre-June 1st, they can't free up any money. They're going to have to do some extensions. They're going to have to do some void years down the road, but that makes it a multi-year problem. And then you look at how they can get under the salary cap after June 1st, which is already too late. They have to be under the salary cap well before then, but you can cut Alvin Kamara, save almost $12 million, but that costs you $7 million. You're paying $7 million for Alvin Kamara to not play for the team. Marshawn Lattimore, arguably the best, if not one of the best corners in the NFL. You can save $15 million cutting him, but you're still paying him $10 million to not play for this team. And it down the list, save $10 million cutting Taysom Hill. That one actually probably makes sense. Only $6 million in dead cap. Okay, I'll do that one. Eric McCoy, your starting center. You can save $10 million, but you need a new center. Cut Tyrann Mathieu. That one probably makes sense. You can save $9 million there. Cut Carl Granderson. You're cutting a starting edge rusher who has been pretty good for you. You can cut Marcus May, $7.5 million you save. Now you have no safeties. You cut both your safeties. Save $3.5 million for cutting Jawan Johnson. That's barely making a dent. $3.7 million can be saved cutting Colin Saunders, the D tackle / fullback. But you don't have any defensive tackles if you're the New Orleans Saints. So no matter what you do, you're screwed. There is no getting out of this hole for the New Orleans Saints. They just need to buckle down for possibly 3 years of having a non-NFL quality roster while they get the money right. It's going to get worse before it gets better, Saints fans. I'm sorry, but this is where we are.
Hey, we're all starting new fantasy leagues all the time. And more often than not, where do we start our fantasy leagues at Player Profiler? On Sleeper. Because it's the best. You can imagine my excitement when I saw Sleeper rolled out. Sleeper picks, baby. And game stacking is the path to positive returns with these pick'em games. Find that sneaky shootout and set most of the players to go over their projection for that week. Or you find a game going to get dragged into the mud and take every member of the passing game for less than their projections that week. And if you pick up to 8, that's how you 100x your payout on Sleeper. It's called the Hail Mary. So if you use promo code Underworld, you get a $100 instant deposit match. Check out Sleeper's terms and conditions for details. These Sleeper picks are live in over 25 states. Yeah, buddy. DFS getting harder every year, but we're here to make it easier with the DFS Dominator because I know a lot of optimizers keep coming out. Oh, our optimizer. What about this optimizer? But that optimizer. Well, we have a cash game optimizer that leverages the projections from Dario, Billy, the award-winning projections at PlayerProfiler.com, and builds the best lineups for cash games that have both upside and stability, because that's what you want. It's a couple clicks, boom, boom, boom. You get the best possible lineup for your cash games. But for tournaments, traditional optimizers don't work. That's why we have a lineup genius, which takes you through the process of building lineups the way they should be built. Which quarterbacks do you want to be overweight on? Then building stacks, then setting runbacks, then optimizing, and generating up to 150 lineups that you can easily import into DraftKings, into FanDuel. That's the DFS Dominator. It's only $45 a year, not a week, a year. Just go to Player Profiler, click on the DFS Dominator from the menu, and you won't be sorry.
Back to Thursday night football and the Jacksonville Jaguars, who Trevor Lawrence looks pretty good considering that he was not likely to play on Monday and then had a miraculous recovery over Tuesday and Wednesday. And he looks pretty good running the football. I did not expect that from Trevor Lawrence. 59 yards rushing, leads the team over Travis Etienne. But Travis Etienne, the breakout is on. Travis Etienne is one of the elite fantasy running backs in the NFL. He has been so good, especially over the past couple of weeks. 2 touchdowns, and 2 touchdowns, 3 games straight with 2 scores, 77 yards on 17 touches, including 3 receptions. Remember when we were worried about Travis Etienne, the fact that he wasn't catching the football, the fact that he wasn't getting targets? That has completely disappeared. Travis Etienne, a year removed from his, 2 years now, a year removed from his recovery season from the Liz Frank injury. Travis Etienne just breaking out all over the place. As for the passing game, pretty clear who the wide receiver one is, isn't it? And I guess Evan Engram leads the team in targets with 7, but it's not Evan Engram. It's Christian Kirk. Catches all 6 of his targets, 91 yards, including a 44-yard touchdown. Whereas Calvin Ridley, he ends up with 4 targets, but for the first half, I don't think he had 1. Maybe he had 1. Calvin Ridley ends the day 1 reception for 5 yards. Though I will admit Calvin Ridley did get robbed. He did catch that one on the sideline. He got both feet in. I don't know why they didn't challenge it, review it, whatever, but Calvin Ridley made that catch. It was ridiculous, but unfortunately, ruled no catch. It's just going to fade away into the memories, but Calvin Ridley, still talented, still good. Christian Kirk's just better. Christian Kirk is an absolute dog, and Christian Kirk is the wide receiver one for the Jacksonville Jaguars. How embarrassing is it for Cliff Kingsbury, too, just to have completely misused Christian Kirk for years, and now we finally see what he truly is. And speaking of the Arizona Cardinals, we got another practice yesterday from Kyler Murray. Of course, unfortunately, I have to film this ahead of time. We're not live right now, but from what I know, Kyler Murray practiced yesterday. He was limited, probably going to practice again today in a limited capacity. He's not going to be active this weekend, but next week, Kyler Murray's going to start ramping up and has a chance to play against the Baltimore Ravens. If he's not ready to go against Baltimore, I hope that they give him another week, because I don't want them unleashing Kyler Murray against the Cleveland defense. That would be setting him up for failure. But either way, Kyler Murray is back and he continues to get better. And as does Deshaun Watson. I am shocked to report that Deshaun Watson returned to practice yesterday. He did throw. It was a limited practice, I believe. I didn't actually get a tag on that, but Deshaun Watson does throw. And the last time he had a full practice before this was September 22nd. All the way from September 22nd to October 19th, no practice for Deshaun Watson. He is finally back throwing the football. We'll see if he plays this weekend. He sounded confident yesterday that he would. We'll see how the shoulder responded to his first practice back. Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen, he's also dealing with a shoulder injury. He is still practicing in full. Looks like there is nothing to worry about there. But Damian Harris doesn't practice. Damian Harris probably not going to play this week. Packers get Aaron Jones back. Aaron Jones practicing again on Thursday. Looks like Aaron Jones is going to play this weekend. Aaron Jones getting healthier and healthier. So disappointing. The performance we saw from Aaron Jones in week 1, just to have it derailed on that long touchdown run that he caught. Just disappointing, but I'm excited to see Aaron Jones back to full strength. Same with Jahmyr Gibbs. Jahmyr Gibbs gets another limited practice in yesterday. It looks like Jahmyr Gibbs is going to return to the lineup, and the Lions absolutely need him because David Montgomery, obviously, we all know he's not expected to play. Probably missing this week, probably missing that next week against the Raiders on Monday Night Football. Then it's the bye, so they'll give David Montgomery 3 weeks to heal up, is what we're expecting. He could surprise us all on return after one game like he did last time. But either way, expect to have Jahmyr Gibbs with this backfield to himself. Though he's not 100% yet, he'll be good enough, as will Craig Reynolds. Craig Reynolds returns to practice yesterday. He missed Wednesday, returns to practice on Thursday. He's dealing with a toe and a hamstring injury, but looks like the Lions will have both Craig Reynolds and Jahmyr Gibbs. Because if they didn't, that'd be terrifying. Devine Azigbo and Mohamed Ibrahim would be RB1 and RB2. Lions might want to consider making a call to Leonard Fournette if any of these injuries are going to linger longer. Speaking of those hamstring injuries, those pesky hamstring injuries, Jahmyr Gibbs, Aaron Jones, now Craig Reynolds, Davante Smith dealing with a hamstring injury. He popped up on the injury report Wednesday. He practiced yesterday, and Davante Smith says he is going to play this weekend. Usually, if they make players available to talk to the media and they say, yeah, I'm playing, usually that's a good indication that they are. Not always, because sometimes players lie, sometimes players overestimate their ability, but usually if the team doesn't think they're ready to play, they're just not going to let them talk to the media. So the fact that Davante Smith is telling people he plans to play, it's a good sign. Gets the limited practice in yesterday. Same with Tyler Lockett. He is limited Wednesday and Thursday with the hamstring injury, but it does look like he is going to play, even if he's not at 100%. Now for the bad news. Got through all the good news first. The bad news. There's a lot of it. Christian McCaffrey does not practice yesterday. Trent Williams does not practice yesterday. Deebo Samuel does not practice yesterday. Though we don't actually know for Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams because they never practiced the first day of the week. And since the 49ers play the Vikings on Monday Night Football, their first practice day is Thursday. So Christian McCaffrey and Trent Williams, even without the injuries, they're not practicing. And then we hear reports finally, days later. We've been waiting since Monday to hear about Christian McCaffrey's MRI. Finally hear about it late last night. Oh, yeah, it's encouraging. It's good. Christian McCaffrey could play. So today's practice report, make sure you go and look it up, see if Christian McCaffrey was limited. If he's limited, he's playing this weekend. If he didn't practice, check the injury report tomorrow because Christian McCaffrey still could end up playing. Trent Williams, I'm a little less optimistic for. It is an ankle injury. I think it's a high ankle sprain. They haven't announced it officially, but I believe we saw a high ankle mechanism. I could be misremembering, but Trent Williams, day to day, we'll see if he ends up playing this weekend, but doesn't practice yesterday. Deebo Samuel is the only one that we actually have information on because Deebo Samuel does practice the first day of the week. Deebo Samuel doesn't practice yesterday. Bad sign for his availability on Monday, but we've still got 2 more days for Deebo Samuel to practice. Same with DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf does not practice Thursday. He's got a rib injury. He's got a hip injury, so no DK Metcalf. Keep an eye on that. I imagine we'll get a practice, at least in a limited capacity today, because it's DK Metcalf, and he is a true warrior. But keep an eye out. DK Metcalf could end up being ruled out for this weekend. Does look like Zach Charbonnet is going to be ruled out this weekend, though. He did not practice Wednesday, did not practice Thursday. He's got the dreaded hamstring injury that is just plaguing everyone this season. Expect to see Zach Charbonnet out, which means even more work for Kenneth Walker. DJ Dallas is going to be the RB2. And yeah, that's it for the Seattle Seahawks. Greg Dulcich also dealing with that pesky hamstring injury. He doesn't practice yesterday, doesn't practice Wednesday. They're considering putting Greg Dulcich back on the injured reserve, but I imagine the reason they haven't done that yet is because it's going to end his season, which might not be the worst thing for the Denver Broncos because Greg Dulcich, if and when he gets healthy, he is a good football player, so he does raise their chances of winning slightly. But then again, that doesn't matter that the Broncos are tanking because they don't have picks anyways. Oh, it's a mess. Denver, not quite as messy as the New Orleans Saints, but they are up there. Another mess is the New York Giants. Daniel Jones, limited on Thursday once again. He still has not been cleared for contact. Unless that changed today, make sure you go check the practice report for Daniel Jones. But if there's no Daniel Jones, we're going to get another start from Tyrod Taylor. Tyrod Taylor versus a defense that has allowed 5 straight performances of 300 plus passing yards. If you're in a pinch with all of the bye weeks, all of the injuries, you could do worse than Tyrod Taylor. I'd rather start him over the Bears versus Raiders. Ugh, that game is going to get ugly. Starting Tyrod Taylor over Tyson Bagent, starting him over Aiden O'Connell, absolutely. But it's not just Daniel Jones for the Giants who's up in the air or who's battling through injury. Shane Lemieux, who is former 5th-round pick. He's played a lot of different positions on the Giants offensive line, but he's never really stuck around because he's ended every season on the injured reserve. 12 games he played as a rookie, and since then, I think the most he's played is 5. Now he's headed to IR, torn biceps. So the Giants signed Sean Harlow off the Cowboys practice squad, which makes 3 practice squad offensive linemen that they have signed to their active roster this week. Oh, the poor New York Giants. It's just getting worse and worse. And that's led to speculation that Saquon Barkley could be traded, but he wants to say Saquon Barkley does not want to go anywhere. He wants to stay with the New York Giants. He wants to get a contract extension, and he wants to be with the New York Giants for the long haul, but admits it's not up to him, not his choice. Team can do what they want with him. He's just hoping to stay with the Giants. We already mentioned Justin Fields. He's going to be out. They're going to start Tyson Bagent. And the Raiders aren't going to be with Jimmy Garoppolo. Sounds like they're going to start Aiden O'Connell. He's been getting the first team reps in practice. Obviously, Brian Hoyer stepped into the game for him, but that's a different situation. That is saying, hey, you're a veteran. You've been here before. You know what you're doing. You can be thrust into the lineup, thrown to the Wolves. Whereas if they do that to Aiden O'Connell, say, hey, you haven't practiced. You don't know what you're doing. You don't have this NFL experience, but hey, go out there and win off of no practice, kid. Well, you're setting them up for a little bit of failure, could lose the game. So I understand the decision, but it looks like Aiden O'Connell with a full week. He's going to be starting, and hopefully he's going to be targeting Davante Adams, who has been upgraded to full with his shoulder injury, but he is unhappy. Davante Adams says he is not here just to hang out. I expect to be able to have that ability to put that on tape and have an influence on the game. And what it comes down to, and what Davante Adams later quote tweeted from someone, is he wants to win. He has high expectations for this offense, and he knows if he is the 3rd in targets for the Raiders, they're not going to win many games. If Michael Mayer and Jacoby Myers are out targeting him consistently, it worked against the Patriots, but if that happens constantly, the Raiders offense isn't going to do what it needs to do. And people are taking this, Davante Adams is being selfish. They get a win, but he doesn't get enough targets, so he's mad. No, Davante Adams is being realistic that he is being wasted on a rudderless franchise, and he knows he's better than this. So Davante Adams, I know there's been a lot of back and forth. It sounded like he was going to get traded earlier in the season. Then the Raiders come out and say, no, we're going to keep him because we want to make a playoff push, even though they're not going to make a playoff push. And now Davante Adams with this. I don't know what's going to happen. If the world made sense, Davante Adams would be shipped out to another team, a contender. The Raiders use the picks, rebuild, because they are a team in desperate need of a complete facelift. Josh McDaniels probably going to be fired. So the Raiders just got to pull the trigger. But they might not. We'll see as the trade deadline approaches. And I know I've been talking about how bad the trade deadline is. I forgot just how good it was last year. You got Christian McCaffrey, you got Calvin Ridley, you got TJ Hawkinson, Chase Claypool, Kadarius Toney. Not as big of moves, but at least they were moves. Bradley Chubb to the Miami Dolphins, Roquan Smith to the Baltimore Ravens. There were a lot of trades. And hopefully we can see some more. Jerry Jeudy, we continue to hear him with the Colts, but it's not just the Colts. It's a bunch of teams that are calling the Denver Broncos about Jerry Jeudy. I don't know why they keep going back to the Colts. By all accounts, the Colts are like every other team. They're just calling to chat. There's nothing concrete. They're not heating up in any way, but for some reason, the Colts are the only team that continue to get leaked out as in pursuit of Jerry Jeudy. Maybe they're trying to motivate someone on the roster. I don't know. Doesn't make sense. I don't understand it. I also don't understand Hunter Renfro's usage. He's officially being passed by Trey Tucker. He's got to get traded or cut. Raiders just need to free Hunter Renfro. Broncos need to free Jerry Jeudy. Let him start fresh somewhere else. And it sounds like the Carolina Panthers are willing to let Terrace Marshall start fresh. They have given him permission to seek a trade. Now, I don't know who's going to trade for Terrace Marshall, former 2nd-round pick, guy I was a big fan of coming out of college, but just hasn't put it together in the NFL at all. And so it's just funny to me when Guys who haven't done anything in the NFL are out here requesting trades. Who's going to trade for you and why exactly? But we'll see. Maybe Terrace Marshall does receive a trade. Maybe it's a 6th, 7th round pick swap, and maybe he does flourish. We could also see Zach Ertz traded, and part of that is the Cardinals potentially tanking, which they're obviously not because they're bringing Kyler Murray back. But another part of that is letting Trey McBride see more snaps. Trey McBride looking pretty good. Trey McBride had a good game last week. Need to see what you truly have in him. So I wouldn't be surprised if Zach Ertz is shipped off. Derrick Henry should be traded. Not sure if we're actually going to see that. Carl Lawson, the New York Jets edge rusher, sounds like he is going to be traded. He's been healthy and active the past couple games alongside McCole Hardman. Hardman gets shipped out. We'll see if Lawson ends up going where. And also the Washington Commanders. Montez Sweat and Chase Young. We've heard it back and forth for weeks, if not months now, that they're only going to pay one of these guys. They only have one franchise tag to apply to them to try and work out a deal. They know that they can't afford a star nose tackle paying high-end money to their nose tackle, high-end money to their defensive tackle. That's Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. They're both top 5, if not top 10, in defensive tackle money. And then we've got to pay a top 7 edge rusher contract to Montez Sweat or Chase Young. We can't do that twice to both of them. So one of the two, not both, Montez Sweat or Chase Young, could end up being on the move for the Washington Commanders. But we'll see. There are a lot of moving parts. There are a lot of things that could shake out across the NFL, including the firing of Bill Belichick. And I know I've been talking about this for months as well, but it just keeps coming up. After another loss, after a loss to Josh McDaniels, the Raiders, a bad franchise, after the Patriots just continue to get embarrassed week after week. Robert Kraft hears the complaints of the fans. Robert Kraft hears the complaints of the people in the building who are no longer fans of Bill Belichick and the way things are going. And the ego's too big for Bill Belichick to remove himself as general manager. He's either got to be coach and GM or he's going to get fired. And at this point, according to Albert Breer, sounds like it's going to be an outright firing of Bill Belichick.
Hey, I want to take a moment to thank you for tuning in. It's important to me that all of our media be free. This is only possible because of you allowing a true independent sports media enterprise to thrive unlike any other in the business. So please subscribe to the All In Package to continue to make all this possible, to ensure that all of our stats, information, data, content is available to you, especially you, the people that get the site and get the show.